All right, guys. Well, if you're like a lot of us, you've got one of these Z900RSs and you've discovered that the radiator is left unprotected from the factory. And, well, you've gone shopping and you've picked up one of these. Maybe you've picked up one from Amazon and you've discovered that they come with no instructions. It does come with a couple of things, though, and I'm hoping this video will help you along the way. What you're going to need is you're going to need a 5mm hex. That doesn't come with it. But what does come is some weather stripping, and it comes with a handful of these little spacer things. And you'll see what those are for, or what I'm assuming that they're for here in just a second. But what I can tell of them is they're a little shock absorber thing, and, well, let's kind of dive into that. Okay, guys, before I go any further, remember that with the Z900RS in 2021, they started fitting larger radiators on these bikes. This is a 2023 and it has the larger radiator. If you are ordering one for your bike, it is going to be important that you make sure that you order the right one for the year of your motorcycle. Up to 2020, the radiator is a little bit smaller, and that cover it just will not work. It won't fit the newer bikes at all, and vice versa. So basically what you would do is you would start by removing these bolts that hold the covers onto the end caps. Once those are off, this guard basically just sits right there on top of the radiator. There's really not much to it, but what I've done and where I place those little bumpers are right about midway on those end caps, and I'm splitting the difference side to side and up and down. Now for the weather stripping, doubled up a little bit right there, put some along this top part right here, and then down here as well. Just making sure I gave it enough support along the way. Don't know if I did it right, but it seems to be pretty solid, seems to be fairly snug, and it looks like it's going to work out just fine. If along the way you forgot how those end cap covers go on, that slotted side, the long side, goes towards the back. This will become readily apparent on the right side because that cover only goes on one way. It'll remind you. Okay, so as far as fitment goes, one thing to remember is that these are steel bolts going into this radiator. I believe it's aluminum. If it feels weird when you're getting this thing lined up, don't force it. You are going to have to play around with this. You'd be surprised how much force these little bumpers can actually put on that guard. It's going to make lining everything up a little bit of it can be a little bit weird, but you'll figure it out. It's not that big of a deal. Just take your time. Don't get into a rush. Don't become impatient, because the last thing you want to do is cross-thread one of those bolts into your radiator. It won't go into the radiator itself. In other words, when you take those bolts out, it's not going to just pour coolant out or anything like that. But again, you just don't want to cross-thread it. So kind of a top tip there. Take your time and you'll do just fine. Also, another thing, when you're putting these in, I did the tops on both sides first, then I did the bottom. That seemed to be a lot easier. I was wrestling with it at first, and once I did that, kind of left everything loose and snugged everything up afterwards, it just buttoned up with no problems. And with that, guys, that's a wrap. Hopefully that helps you out. We'll catch you on the next one. Adios.